Went live. Oh, it did. Yay. All right, guys. So sorry about that. I had a little pause in the system and it looked like we weren't live. So now we are. So thank you everyone for joining us. Today is another episode of our School Spotlight series. I'm really excited to have College of the Canyons joining us today. But before we get started, I'm just going to wait a few seconds to allow any of our viewers to join. If you are watching this live, please remember that this session will be recorded. So if you have to jump out for any reason, you'll be able to come back and watch this later, either on our Facebook page, our YouTube channel, or directly on the College of the Canyons profile on applywave.com. Also, if you are joining in live, feel free to submit any questions you have in the comment section. We'll be monitoring those, and if you have questions, we'll be happy to answer them at the end of the webinar. So without further ado, I'm going to invite Tim onto the screen. Tim, welcome. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Oh, great. Thank you, Mackenzie. Thank you for having us.
Really excited to have you here. It's always fun when we're talking to a college. This has been a recurring topic of conversation since we started doing these school spotlights. It's like, okay, there's college, there's university, there's community college. It means one thing in Canada, it means another thing in the US. It's, it can be a little bit confusing. So I'm excited that we have the opportunity to dive into what College of the Canyons is and what you offer to international students. So hopefully those watching will be able to figure out whether it's a good fit or not, because that's what we all care about, is finding the right fit. First of all, though, I think something students always focus on when trying to figure out where they want to study is location. You guys have an amazing location here in California. I mean, everybody dreams of going to California. So can you tell me a little bit about the general vicinity where your campus is located?
Yeah, good. The location is one of our best features. So there's a couple of ways to look at location. One way to look at location is what we call the three pillars, which is the location, meaning the campus, is it near a major metropolitan airport? There are community colleges that are, a half a day drive from the airport. And then there's schools like ours that are an hour from there. The second thing you want to look at around location is safety, because the world's a big place and not every campus is located in exactly the same quality of spot. So you want to look at quality of that place. How safe is it? Can you walk around at night without any problems, no matter who you are, anywhere in the city? Somebody's always friendly if they say hi. And the third part of location is more oriented towards in sort of the macro level. Where do you want to go to school and get your bachelor's degree? And so if you think about those three things, that's one way of looking at location. Another way of looking at location is the experience that the student has. So if a student is located right near the beach, then they're going to see a lot of the beach. They may never see anything else, but they're going to see a lot of the beach. If they're located up in the mountains or up in the woods, then they're going to see a lot of trees, and that might be a great place for them to live. The way that our campus is situated is we're about 1 hour north of Los Angeles, and we're sort of in this valley all of our own, and the entire valley, about 300,000 people and no tall buildings, is really designed for students. So it's a student-based city.
And what does that mean? Explain that, student-based city.
A student-based city means that the community was designed and the city was incorporated all for the purpose of making sure that this particular benefit of this city is that students have great educations, all the way starting from first grade and all the way through grade 14, which is what community college is. And so everything revolves around, what do students need? How do students get around? Is it safe for students? Everything is about that. The characteristic that you'll notice with where College of Canyons is located is it's like 1 hour drive at the most from everywhere. So we've got Castaic Lake, which is maybe 25 minutes. We got Pine Mountain, which is about 50 minutes. Ventura Harbor, which is about an hour. Santa Monica, which is about 50 minutes, depending on traffic. It could be 2 hours because LA traffic is crazy. So we're always like 1 hour away from everything, which means you have your choices wherever you go. And there's buses and trains. When you come to College Canyons, you'll make a ton of friends So from the student standpoint, the other way to look at location is, what are you going to do in your free time? And so because we're a student-centered city, the expectation is you treat going to school like it was a full-time job. 40 or 50
Mhm.
hours, you are working on your full-time job, which is going to school. But all the
Right.
rest of the time is, shopping, the malls, hanging out with your friends, video games, the beach, all of those things which need to be available, which are available through College of the Canyons. And that's kind of how we look at location. The
Mhm.
third part of location that we look at is, where are you going to live? And
Yes.
that's because it varies a lot between schools. Are you going to live in an urban environment in a high rise? Are you going to live in student environment in an urban environment where it's kind of gritty, kind of rough
Mhm.
around the edges? The way that it works in Santa Clarita is, because it's a student-centric place, is typically students spend their first semester at a college family. So they're living in a
Mhm.
big house, they have their own room, own bathroom, maybe a swimming pool in the backyard, that kind of thing, and all the food is cooked, and you kind of learn your way around. And then students have a tendency to find an apartment with a bunch of friends. And there are so many apartments, it's unbelievable, because again, it's set up so there's plenty of apartments for students. And so
Mhm.
location wise, that's a third aspect, is where you're going to live. You're going to start with a family, and then you're probably going to move in, although you don't have to, with a bunch of friends, and kind of do the college thing. One of the
Yeah.
things you'll notice about community colleges is dormitories are very, very rare.
That's what
And
I
that's
was
because
that's
community,
what I was gonna ask, like so with College of the Canyons, you don't live at a dorm, correct?
you almost always, there are
Uh-huh.
some community colleges are near dorms, which are owned and operated by a four-year university nearby.
Gotcha.
But
Mhm.
almost all community colleges in the United States don't have residential living programs. And that's because their entire mission is to serve the students that live nearby. So all the students live with mom and dad. So they don't
Mhm.
need dorms. It's not until you move to the regional universities like UCLA or Berkeley that you need to find a dorm or an apartment or something, because your parents don't live there.
Mhm.
That's kind of
That
how
makes
it
sense.
works. The community college system is set up that way. And College of Canyons is the
Cool.
same
So,
way. One of the College of Canyons got this cool college family program, which we can talk about
mhm.
in another spotlight. But right now, that's the third element of location that we talk about.
Awesome. Very cool. I mean, it sounds like there's so much to do just because of your location. And that's something I really like to highlight when students are, they're looking at, thinking about where they want to go. And most people just assume, like, well, of course I want to be in a big city because I want to have access to everything. Or of course I want to be in X location. But people tend to skip over the areas that aren't directly in a major city or aren't, right in the heart of something they've heard of. And that's okay too, because that means you're going to have variety. That means if you're in the mood to go, go out, enjoy nightlife, you can go do that. But if you also just want to relax outside in a calm area, you can do that too. So I think that's a really important point that you mentioned is, when you're looking for an experience, you really have to think about your personality, what you want, what's going to make you have that most enriching experience that you're looking for. Now, when it comes to kind of the on campus experience, what sort of activities does College of the Canyons offer for international students? This is another thing that's, tends to be different when we're talking about four-year institutions and community colleges. Some students want to know, are there sports, are there clubs, can I do the same stuff, or is it just studying all the time?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So the campus life on community colleges, and College of Canyons does this really well, is not what you see in the movies with the keg parties. Community colleges are academic institutions that you're going to focus on your academics. But with that said, the campus life itself is very alive. There's usually clubs. College of Canyons has over 50 clubs. So, chess club, math club, medical doctor club, veterinarian club, piano club, everything you can imagine, clubs. And that is where the social life exists, besides outside of the classes with your colleagues in the classes. It's really based on clubs rather than fraternities and sororities. And those clubs are all designed like corporations. They have a president, a secretary, and a treasurer. They keep meeting minutes. They follow Robert's Rules of Order. And you do a fundraising, and you do a project, and you spend the money. And it's all for the purpose of demonstrating your competency in the development of leadership skills. Because we know that the development of leadership skills is really, really important. Now, I don't want to make it sound like it's boring. It's not. It's a lot of fun. But it's not just a keg party where you don't develop anything except for a headache.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm sure if students are looking
it.
for keg parties, they can find it somewhere close by. I'm sure that's also there.
They can go find it somewhere else, yes.
But I love that point that you made about those clubs. And this is something, again, that I always like to bring up, especially, you know, some schools say, oh, if there's not a club, you can start one. And this is great too, knowing that if the club already exists, you guys take those clubs and organizations as true organizations. So even if a student isn't the one starting the club, they can get involved, and that is true leadership. And that's something that you can put on your resume later, that you know, if you took on a role, you know, being a co-chair or being a treasurer or whatever it may be in one of these organizations, that's something that down the line future employers may look at and say, okay, so maybe you don't have job experience in my field, but you do have this experience of being a leader.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think that's great. Yep. Awesome. What about when we're talking about academics? Again, this is something that is kind of confusing to students who don't know. When you're at a community college, do you choose a major? Do you choose a program? How does it work exactly? Explain to me that.
That's a great question. Yeah. So most students choose what's called a transfer degree because their ultimate goal is to get a bachelor's degree. And so what they do is they say, okay, I want a bachelor's degree in business or engineering or film or theater or art or education or something. And they choose which institution they're going to go to for that bachelor's degree. And then they take the courses necessary to transfer to that school. And that transfer protocol is very well understood, very agreed upon amongst all the schools. The transfer is very easy from community college to another institution, especially within the family of institutions. Right. Like in California is one family of institutions. So you've got, you know, the 9 UCs, you got the 23 California state universities, and you got another 70 private schools. But it kind of works the same everywhere. You can pick a particular major. You can say, well, I want to study computer networking because I want to be a computer network person eventually. And you can do that process through the community college, and then you can still transfer and do that networking program to that, and then you get your bachelor's degree in it and you go to work. The main difference is that if you choose a degree that has a completion and you want to, you're allowed to work as an international student as a gap year between the second year and the third year of your 4-year degree. That's the only difference about working. Yeah. So you do the first 2 years. Now, keeping in mind the 4 years of a bachelor's degree in the US, the first 2 years are almost exactly the same from an academic standpoint, no matter what school you go to. And so it's the same classes, sometimes it's the same teachers, because community colleges are located near big schools and the teachers teach at both places. So that's the key thing. It's the same everywhere. The difference is that work period that you get, and also what is the campus life going to be like?
Exactly. And I think that's such a good point to make, that that's an option for students. I know, you know, depending on everyone's personal circumstance, you know, maybe you're not a student who's fresh out of high school and, you know, just going in the flow of the studies. Maybe you're someone who is a little bit older. Maybe you're in your late 20s instead of your early 20s, and you're just now exploring your higher education opportunities. This is also a good option where you can go, you can do a 2-year program at a community college, take that year after you finish that 2-year associate's degree, work, and then take that credit that you already earned and finish your bachelor's degree somewhere else, where you'll then be able to continue to work afterwards as well. So I think that's, you know, definitely and of course, younger students can do that as well. I just feel like that's something that would really appeal to adults who, you know, kind of aren't so focused on having the, you know, all the social stuff that comes along with being in a university and they're serious, they just want to get out in the workforce, I think that's definitely a really good option. At College of the Canyons, are there any particular areas of study that students tend to choose if they are doing those, not the transfer program, but just doing these shorter programs? Like, do you guys have any sort of niche when it comes to that? Did I stump you?
No. It's a different world for local students than it is for international students.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking through the years how the trends have kind of changed, to answer your question. And so if the students that choose to do less than a bachelor's degree, so they're just going to do some work here and then they're going to stop. Over the years, typically nursing has been the most popular for that. We also have some trades like machining and welding and automobile mechanic that have been really popular, but only a small percentage of international students do that. I think it's because they don't know about it, or maybe because what they're expecting after they finish may not work out. But if you're in the United States, those jobs for those they pay six figures. There's an unbelievable number of jobs and a huge demand. It's just international students don't typically pick it. International students for a 2-year degree program, they do tend to pick education so that they can go back to their home country and go to work in a school system without having to go get a bachelor's degree. And they also tend to pick nursing because then they can go anywhere in the world and do nursing. And a lot of students choose those things, I think, because that's what their expectation is when they first come. So the second half of the question you asked, and it's a great question, it's because we do get a lot of students who say, oh, I'm just going to be here for 2 years and then I'm done. I'm just going to get a certificate or an associate's degree. And we say, that's great. Here's the pathway. We'll help you. And they inevitably, sometime during the first semester of the second year, they change their mind. And they say, wow, I can really do college. I can do this. I wasn't good at high school. I thought I needed to keep going, but the price is really good and I'm learning a lot. And wow, I see a huge potential and I can go to any of these other schools. I'm going to transfer. So they end up doing transfer and we get them, their wings sprout and we fly them off. But there's a lot of choices for international students.
Yeah, and I think that's something that international students might not understand about community colleges, is that it really provides you that flexibility. If you're not 100% sure, or you think you're 100% sure about what you want to do, when you're in this college setting, you have that freedom to say, you know what, I'm just going to go with this 2-year program. I'll be done. I'll go to work. Or if you decide, like, you know what, I really want to dive into this, or I didn't, like you mentioned, maybe you didn't have the confidence in your academic ability, and you learn through the support of a community college that you are able to handle these classes and you want to pursue a 4-year degree, you have that choice. And I think one of the great benefits to students for you to know, typically community colleges cost significantly less than 4-year institutions do. So Tim, do you have anything to add to that when it comes to cost of studying at College of the Canyons?
Yeah, so the cost question is really important. The tuition is significantly less than other institutions, especially private institutions, even after a scholarship. It's interesting because a lot of people make the connection between cost and quality. And what they don't understand is the California community college system is heavily subsidized by the state of California. And so although students do pay their fair share, that cost is a lot less than at a research university or a university which has a lot of sports programs that are very expensive. So our teachers, and I'm going to call them teachers more than researchers or instructors or lecturers, our teachers, they only have one responsibility, and that's to teach. Now, they do a lot of other things in the community, a lot of community service, a lot of involvements with students, but their primary responsibility is teaching. At other institutions, that's not always the case. A lot of times, especially a freshman and sophomore year, you walk into, say, a chemistry 101 class with 300 students, and you have the one professor who's giving the lecture, and you never see him or talk to him because you're broken up into groups and you have college assistants. And in the community college system, you're with that teacher. There's 15 kids in the class, And that teacher only has that one responsibility. So because of that, there's no research requirements. Research is very expensive. No R&D. R&D is very expensive. And the sports programs are all self-supporting. And so our sports programs, and we have lots of sports that international students are on all the time because they get early registration if they're on a sports team. That's one of the reasons they like it. And so we have that, but it doesn't raise the price of our schooling.
Right.
So we're able to keep that price very low, and you're going to find the price is pretty much the same in all of California at about $10,000 a year for fees and tuition combined.
That's amazing. So as we're wrapping up, I think we just scratched the surface of so many of the reasons why students should choose a community college and why College of the Canyons could be a good fit for students. But I want you to tell us one final thing, which is, if I were an international student and I'm looking at my options, what would you say to me? What advice would you give me, and why should I study at College of the Canyons?
That's a good question. So here's a scenario. You're a top student, you got top grades in your high school, you got excellent letters of recommendation, you did great on the SAT, and you're accepted into UC Berkeley with a full scholarship. You should go. You don't need me. You don't need me at all. But if you want to go to Berkeley and you don't get accepted, you come to me, and then you go as a junior. And the acceptance rate is, it's so tiny as a freshman. The whole world is applying to UCLA and UC Irvine and Berkeley. And so, but you don't get in. But as a junior, you're getting in. You do the hard work, you do the heavy lifting, you do what we tell you, which is get top grades, demonstrate the development of leadership skills, and get to know your professors, and you're going to the school of your dreams. So it's like the chance for that late bloomer or that student who really didn't know what they wanted in high school. They didn't plan to try to go to a top university, but here they are. They want to go to university in the United States, and they can't get in. That's when I come in.
That's amazing. And that's a point that I really want to drive home. Community college is a stepping stone. Okay, this is the way to help you achieve your end goal. If you get turned down the first time, maybe you apply directly to UC Berkeley and you don't get accepted, don't let that defeat you. You can still find a way to make that dream happen, and that's through studying at a place like College of the Canyons, where they can help you get up to the level that you need to get to in order to study at your dream school. And if not, you might also find your place at College of the Canyons. You mentioned some students, they decide, I'm going to do this 2-year program and then I'm going to get to work, so it's just such a good fit for so many students. And I hope our students watching this are understanding just, again, the value at studying at a community college. And, as you mentioned, people think a lower price means low quality, but that's just definitely wrong when it comes to community college. What you offer. Yeah, and it's just such an amazing opportunity for international students. I've helped so many students personally who have been in that situation where, they were lazy in high school. They don't have the grades they need, but they have these high aspirations. And it's awful when you have to say, listen, I'm sorry, but that's just not going to happen right now. You're not going to be accepted to that school with your grades, and you can't go back in time. All you can do is take steps forward. And, again, studying at a place like College of the Canyons is exactly what a student like that needs. Awesome. Well, Tim, thank you so much for sharing all this information. Like I said, I feel like we could talk for hours about all of this. You brought up so many good points. But what I want to do now for all of our viewers, if you want more information about College of the Canyons, now you know who's behind the screen. It's Tim. He's the one who's going to be seeing everything that's coming in. He's going to be helping you when you're there. I assume if you walk by him in the hallway, he'll say hi to you. He doesn't look like a mean guy or anything. And obviously, I'll be here to help throughout the transition process when you're applying. So in order to do that, I want to share my screen real quick. I'm going to show you all how you can find more information about College of the Canyons and actually start applying. So as you can see at the bottom of our screen, we have College of the Canyons programs listed under certificates, associates, language programs. If you're doing that transfer, you want to start out at College of the Canyons and then transfer to a four-year institution, you'd look under here at this associate's degree tab, because it is the first 2 years of that program. Here you can search for College of the Canyons in the where do you want to study section. Click search. So here on this page, you see the pre-profile. If you create an account, just log in or click sign up. It's super easy. It's totally free as well. But once you have an account, you'll be able to see if there are any available scholarships. If you want more information about the school, you can click on read more. You'll see some admissions requirements here. And again, sometimes those vary based on program. Here you're able to see all these different options of things you can study at College of the Canyons. Their amazing location, near that valley. It looks like there's some water close by, all these major cities. And then you can see a nice little gallery of what studying at College of the Canyons might be like. If you're ready to move forward with your application, or if you'd like to kind of inquire, I invite you to just click the apply button. And again, it'll be myself who's behind the screen helping you through that process. And then Tim, once you're ready to get there on campus, that's who you're going to see. So thank you everyone for joining. Tim, thank you so much for coming on today. I really appreciate it. And it was so nice to chat with you. All right, everyone, have a great day and we'll see you next time. Bye.